Let's get this like that. There we go. And the camera is facing over here. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Trainer Talk. I'm Chris. I'm going to be filling in for Haley today. Sorry for the late start. We just had a couple dogs in the pond that I wanted to get in before I started this, so they weren't waiting on me. So I don't got too much to talk about today. The kind of highlight of training, I would say, was last Sunday. We did some recall work with some of the pups on Puppy Hill. A few of them are actually here. It was Derby, I believe Derby was part of it. Derby, Alfred, Jet, Bert, who is in another kennel, and I want to say, hold on, I lost track of what it was. Alfred, Bert, Derby, Jet, and there was one more, I can't remember who it was. It might have been Poppins. No, it was Winnie. That's who it was. It was Winnie. They did pretty well. Some of them picked it up pretty quickly. Alfred and Bert, they seem to, if not figure out the recall, they seem to at least figure out the game itself pretty quickly. So they were, at the very least, paying attention to us. A couple of them, like Winnie, Jet a little bit, sometimes Derby, their focus was kind of off. They would come when they were called, but sometimes it took a little bit if they were focused on, it was me and Haley doing it, and if they were a bit focused on one or the other, sometimes it took a minute to get their attention. Other than that, though, they're progressing pretty well. Their kenneling up is fantastic. Had a little bit of difficulty with a couple of them today during lunch, but other than that, they tend to come right into the kennel, which is fantastic. I'm hoping it stays that way once they hit the 6 months mark and the hormones start kicking in. That their rebellious phase isn't too much of a rebellious phase. But so far they're doing very well with that. We're trying to work on with the ones that are staying over in the barn, which is currently Pearly, Sugar, Winnie, and Banks. We're trying to work on their weight when they're eating. We're having some mixed results with that. Banks has been particularly difficult. He does not want to wait. He just wants to jump right in, chow down. He inhales it like a vacuum. It's been particularly difficult getting him to wait. The other three we've been having some mixed success with. They don't always wait on the ground, but they will typically wait if they're standing on the stand. So there is some progress there, but Banks right now is kind of, at least my focus on getting the weight command down. We've been doing 2 at a time just for ease of that, just so we're not trying to stop 4 pups all at once. I think with repetition he will finally start to get it, or at least when he kind of gets a little bit older, starts calming down, I think he'll finally start to get the whole weight command when it comes to food. I think right now he's still growing, he's still very hungry, he needs that food, that energy, and so he's just so desperate for it. But I think once he starts getting older, once we start upping his food, I think we'll eventually start to see a decline in that behavior. At least I certainly hope so, because I don't want to be dealing with that when he's 100 pounds. But I think he'll get it. The Poppins pups are very smart. They're very smart. They're figuring out a lot of things very early on. So I'm confident that Banks will eventually figure it out with the right training, of course. Other than that, I'm hoping to work on recall with them again at some point. Right now it's kind of in a bit of a nebulous stage where they definitely know their names. Like if you call their names, a lot of the times they will perk up and look, but they're not always coming when they're called. So it's really kind of reinforcing becoming when they're called, which is really going to help with the kenneling up once they start getting older, because right now they will kennel up on their own, but it usually requires a lot of treats to get them in. It's usually once they notice you have the treats, their attention will be completely on you, and then they'll follow you into the kennel. Sometimes they'll be a little they'll try to turn it into a game. They'll go a little bit into the kennel, not all the way. But I think once we start working the recall a bit more with them, then they're really going to start getting the, I go into the kennel, I get a treat. But I do have high hopes for this litter so far. They are doing very well. They're making some great progress. I don't know how they're doing out on outings. I haven't heard anything bad. I heard a couple of the pups went to an event on Sunday. I think it was the a farmer's market. I forget where. I know Alfred went and one other, and I can't remember who. And I know there was some worries about them because Alfred's a bit of a barker, but it sounds like he did very well. So, keeping that up. But so far, so good. That was really all I had to say. I don't have much else. So thank you all for tuning in. And we'll be back next week with more updates. All right.